Cool, so we're out here in the woods. It's a rare day in England where it's actually sunny, and stupidly I forgot to bring an ND filter, as always. We've got the Canon R50 V. It's a video-focused mirrorless camera. Not the first one, I don't think. Canon did one called the V10, which is a really strange, looked a bit like a flip camera, if you remember those. I'm old, so I remember them, but I'm not sure what the V stands for. I'm assuming it's video. Canon themselves didn't actually know at the time. Well, the person I spoke to at Canon didn't know, but I'm assuming video. It's a little, small, tiny, very lightweight camera that has some actually quite impressive features, which we're going to talk about today. So this is aimed at sort of entry-level users, like content creators that are just getting into the game, I suppose. And it's kind of a Swiss Army knife of a camera. It has a lot of pro features in a very affordable small body. I haven't actually mentioned the price yet. I think it's £750 in the UK and $756 in the US. So you can buy the camera in a kit. It comes with a 14 to 30 f4 to 6.3 lens with a servo zoom. So it has like a rubber band effect kind of focus on it. Today I've got the Sigma 10 to 18, which I think is a much more appropriate lens for this camera. It's a little bit more money though, so it's going to vary depending on how much you want to spend. In terms of frame rates, it does up to 4K 60p and HD 120p, all in 10-bit, which is nice. However, it is a budget camera, so it does crop in for the 4K 60. So it's quite, it becomes more like a Micro Four Thirds size kind of crop at that point. The camera is APS-C, obviously not full frame, but it's a nice sensor. It's a 6K sensor that oversamples down to 4K, so you get a really sharp image. In terms of inputs, you've got a mic jack, you've got a headphone jack, which is great. It's back in the day when we were all first starting and using the Canon 550D and stuff like that. It didn't have either of them, some of them, but yeah, but the one downside again, it's a budget camera, it's a small micro HDMI connection, so not great, but it is what it is. In terms of connections, you have a 1/4-20 mount on the side as well as the bottom, so this is really useful if you're shooting vertical, which a lot of people do now, especially content creators and the people who this camera is aimed at. At the top we have, where there would normally be tons and tons of photography features on the dial, there's actually only one for photography, and then a bunch of custom modes for video and a slow and fast mode, which is kind of nice. That's something you see a lot on Sony cameras, not so much on Canon cameras. So slow and fast means you can just preset what slow motion you want and just switch over to it. One way round, the way I've been using the camera for the last week is you have the C1, C2 and C3. So I just set my different modes on C1 to 3. So I have standard 25p on C1, C2 I have as 4K 60, and C3 I have as HD 120, because I don't mind doing the cranking in post. Good thing about the slow and fast mode is if you shoot in slow motion, it will crank the footage into slow motion inside the camera, saving you that step. So if you can't be bothered to play around with post-production, that's got you covered. Internally, you've got a very, very small battery. So that's something that you're going to need to address if you're going to be using this all day. It reminds me a lot of the battery in the Canon M6 II, so if you ever use that, it's very, very similar. It might even be the same battery actually. And you have a single SD card slot and it's built in next to the battery. I'm not a huge fan of that either, but again, it's a very small camera. They've got to put it somewhere, I guess. And again, we're talking about a £750 camera here, so that's an incredible price. So the camera has a hot shoe that talks to the camera. You see this a lot on, I think Panasonic and Sony both have it. Tascam make a sort of XLR thing that goes in the top, which is actually really good. I think Canon have some microphones that you can buy that will just interact straight with the top of with the camera. This doesn't have an EVF, and I wonder if Canon are going to release a EVF that will go in the top here. They did that for the M6 and the M6 II, so it's possible that they'll do the same for the R50 V. I don't think that their EVFs for those cameras work with this camera though. It has a nice big record button at the top and then another one at the front, and I was filming with this yesterday, filming myself, and I actually did find it was actually really useful if you're using the camera like this. You can just, rather than having to get your thumb up here, you can just go boop. So one thing that I wish all cameras have, even smaller cheap ones like this, is a tally light that turns on, so you're recording and when you're not recording. Especially when you're recording yourself, that's super useful. Even though this only has one photo option up on the dial, you can still access all the kind of usual photo features. On the touchscreen, you just hit where it says M here, or whichever mode you have selected, and it brings up all your usual P, TV, AV, manual. So at its heart, this is just an R50, but with some extra video features added essentially. And there are some substitutions obviously as well. So the R50 has an EVF. It's cheap, I think it's cheaper. I'll have to double check that, I'll put it on the screen if it's not. Yeah, so this does have stuff that the R50 doesn't have though. So the R50 doesn't have 4K 60, it doesn't have log, it doesn't have a lot of the exposure tools that you get in here. So one thing that's carried over from the Canon R50 II and the R5C is a much more sensible kind of codec choice in this camera. So back in the day with cameras this size, you just get one codec and it was usually 8-bit, it wasn't great. So now we've got a 10-bit XF HEVC-S codec and an XF AVC-S codec, and those come in 422 and 420, and there's one 8-bit codec I think in 1080p for the one person that still wants to use that. So exposure features on the camera are really good. You've got false colour, and it has a nice false colour guide as well, which is really useful. So if you're not used to exposing false colour, then it's quite handy. You've got obviously peaking, you've got zebras, histograms, etc. Everything you kind of need to expose. This would be a great learning camera actually. If you wanted your first camera, you didn't want to spend a ton of money, and you wanted to see if you were kind of wanted to get into video, then this is a great camera to start with. This is the Sigma 10-18 f2.8, and I think this is the combo really. If you're a content creator, it's the equivalent of a 16-28 full frame. It's faster than the kit lens. It costs a little bit more money though. I think this retails for about the same price as the camera almost. I think it's about £650, $659, somewhere around there. So you are going to spend more, but it's a good investment because it's a nice lens. It's nice and wide, so you can obviously do your vlogging. Do people even do that sort of vlogging anymore, except for camera conspiracies? I don't know. There was a time when I was walking around London where I would genuinely bump into people all the time with a kind of configuration like this. You don't see it as much anymore. Maybe because it just makes you look a bit weird doing that, I guess, but and also because there are other options now. But this is still an incredibly lightweight, easy way to vlog. So this is the R50 in horizontal mode, acting like a vlog camera. I've got the standard electronic image stabilization settings on now because the Sigma 10-18 of course doesn't have in-lens stabilization. But yeah, it's amazing just how lightweight this is. I'm shooting in C-Log 3, 10-bit colour, 422. It's amazing really that for the price you can get all these amazing features. And because it's a smaller camera, you feel less sort of inhibited. If you have that problem with being inhibited as a vlogger, then this is probably kind of a nice little option. Obviously you've got cameras like the DJI Pocket 3 that are even smaller, but this kind of gives you a lot more versatility than that camera. And pair it with the right lens, the right settings, a bit of love in post, and you've actually got a really versatile beginner camera that's useful for pretty much every type of content creator. Obviously this is an entry-level camera, so Canon have had to remove some things to keep the price down. And one of the big things they've removed, obviously, well not removed, but haven't put in, is IBIS. So there's no IBIS in the camera. However, one thing I do really like about Canon's cameras, and I really like this about the R6, even though it does have IBIS as well, is the electronic image stabilization. The standard EIS mode on this camera is actually really usable. I was really surprised. So if you're using a lens like this 10-18 which doesn't have lens stabilization, that is a kind of essential mode for this lens. So Sigma actually make two lenses that I think are perfect for this camera. There's this one which is the 10-18 and another one which is 18-50, and that kind of gives you two of the kind of holy trinity that everyone loves for full frame, which is usually 16-28, 24-70 and 70-200. So you've kind of got your 16-35, or 16-28 in this case, and your 24-70 covered off. So hopefully Sigma will release a, what would it be, 125? So it'll be a 50-125, God, my maths. If you're a content creator, you kind of don't really want to be faffing around with lenses all the time, so just having a solid set of 3 lenses, which is why they call them the Holy Trinity, that's going to kind of cover you for almost everything you do. In terms of low light, this camera's actually surprised me again. The sensor is actually quite sensitive in low light. I'll show some footage now. I shot in a very dark studio with my friend Tim, and I was really surprised what I could pull out of the shadows, what I could pull back from the highlights in low light. So again, you want a faster lens. On this footage I'm showing now, it's a Sigma 16mm f1.4, but I've had way worse experiences with Super 35 sensors in the past than this one. So the cost of the camera actually makes it kind of a lot more available to a much wider group of people, and you're getting a really nice subset of pro features in there. So who's it actually for? It's for vloggers, it's for content creators. it's for TikTokers, it's a real multiple use camera. Is it a pro camera though? Well, in the right hands, you can get kind of pro footage out of this. I'd say it's actually pretty good as a B camera for something like the R6 or the R50 II, or it should match really well. They're using the same kind of color gamuts and C-Log3s in all of these cameras now. So it's a strange camera. It's kind of, I kind of love it in some ways. Is it one I would personally own? Maybe it's just a kind of carry around camera for me, and as an emergency, B-roll camera for my R6 or a gimbal camera even. It's so lightweight. This will fit on even those tiny little like DJI RS3 Mini or RS4 Mini now, or the G and Weeble. It fits perfectly on those. I've tested them, and actually this is kind of the perfect starter camera in many ways. It's the one I would definitely go for if I was starting out in the industry, or if I was becoming a vlogger or becoming a YouTuber. This would be a great camera to have. It's a bit of a Swiss Army knife really. Obviously it's limited in some features, the crop 4K 60p and the lack of IBIS, but A, I'm pretty sure you can get around that pretty easily these days, and B, I'm sure there'll also be another version of this coming soon that will have IBIS and full frame and all this kind of stuff, but it will cost you more. So really you're always having to think about the kind of price when it comes to this camera. Like the amount of stuff you're getting for that money is impressive. So well done, Canon.